Hey everyone, today's video is a follow-up to the 4 keys to effective coaching. If you want to check that video out, you can check it out on my YouTube channel. Now, the 4th item we talked about in that video was managing the conversation. And today I'd like to go into the 3-step process I use to managing a coaching conversation. The first one is to clarify the gap. Now, I often talk about this in terms of putting the turd on the table. You see, I envision, it's kind of a gross analogy, but we all carry around these steaming turds in our pocket, and it just takes a little bit of courage to pull those out and put them on the table and get messy with the people that we're leading. Unfortunately, that gross analogy is pretty real and pretty close to what I think a good coaching conversation has. You see, it's messy and it stinks, and we have to kind of get in it together to get through it and make things better. And it's a sacrifice because it's not fun and it's not easy. But the first thing we need to do in these coaching conversations is get real and get authentic about the gap that we see. The second thing that we need to do is impact their thinking. Now, I always imagine in this part of the process that it's a bridge. There's my thinking, and then there's the other person's thinking, and I need to go to their thinking and help build the bridge back. Now, I don't always assume that I have the right answer, and I may learn something along the way. This is kind of where some problem-solving skills really come in handy, and you're kind of discovering and helping through the thinking and collaborating around the thinking, and hopefully discovering what the limiting assumptions are, or the fears, or the habits, or whatever is driving the thinking in the other person. And if we're really effective at changing the thinking, then the last step becomes really easy. The third step is creating a plan. And of course, we want them to create the plan when we're coaching. Accountability, a little bit different. We're probably going to be more creating the plan. But when we're coaching, we want them to create the plan. And again, if we do it really well at steps 1 and 2, step 3 is super simple. A lot of times they'll come with the plan or come up with the plan right then and there. So the one thing that I think is most helpful in managing the conversation is to remember that you're supposed to be talking less than 50% of the time. And so having good questions is a really good way to help manage the conversation. And we need to think about what are gap questions, thinking questions, and plan questions. Gap questions might be like this. What's your perspective on that? What do you think about that? We want it to be open-ended. After we share our perspective, we want to ask an open-ended gap question, not a plan question, but a gap question. Hey, I think you need to work, my perspective is you need to work on improving your listening skills. What's your perspective on that? Not what are you going to do about it? That's a plan question. That's the most common thing I see is people jump to the plan questions. So gap questions, what's your perspective on that? What do you think about that? How do you see it? And then we go to thinking questions. What are some good thinking questions? Help me understand that. Can you unpack that for me? Let's slow down and dive into that a little bit more. I'd like to understand a little bit more about why you believe that or what you believe. And so we're just helping them unpack that a little bit. Sometimes people don't even know why they think or what they think. And so we're helping slow down the conversation and dig into their thinking. And then lastly, the plan questions, which most people don't need much questions around or help with this because most people just jump right to the plan. Here's my perspective. I don't think you listen very well. What are you going to do about it? Right? That is a big mistake. Do not jump to plan questions. In fact, I almost think I shouldn't go over plan questions because A, they're so obvious, and B, you're going to say them anyway. But once you get through clarifying the gap from both perspectives, impacting the thinking, then and the person hasn't identified what they're going to go do, then you might ask them, hey, what are your thoughts on how you might proceed with this? What's your takeaway and what are you going to do? Hey, when are you going to do it? And then you're going to, of course, follow up on that. So hope this helps. Again, coaching is such a big, monstrous topic. I could talk for days about it, but hopefully this helps in terms of managing your conversation so that you know where you're at. Most of the time, people rush the conversation. They go to selling and telling, and they get right to the plan questions. And that's just not coaching. So slow it down, Ask good gap questions and make sure you get their perspective on the gap that you're presenting with them. Spend some time in that thinking part. Understand why and what they think before you get to those plan questions. Hope this helps. Put a comment below if it did.